I'm Meltoy Franca, and welcome to another episode of Saturday Spotlight. Today I'm meeting with Eva V. Gibson, author of the young adult novel Where Secrets Lie, which was just released in April of 2021. And a huge part of Eva's brand is the fact that she likes darker novels with controversial topics, and I myself am a huge fan of those things, so I'm really excited to hear what she has to say. I was reading through your author bio, and what immediately stood out to me was the fact that you prefer darker, grittier novels with controversial themes.
Yes, I try not to shy away from rougher topics just because of whatever a perceived age limit might be. Some teens live a harder life than others. Some do not live sheltered lives, and those kids can really struggle to see some of the things that they go through in the media that they consume. Those teens need books too.
It's definitely nice to have a book that's, light and fluffy once in a while, but there are times when people want to read a book that explores topics that are really important to them. So I think it's really cool that you're writing about something that some people will be able to connect to. And I'm really curious, how did you discover that you preferred writing about these topics and diving into stuff that other writers might hesitate to write about?
When I was growing up, I read way above my prescribed age level because there wasn't really such a thing as the young adult category back then. I didn't want something fluffy when I was growing up. I wanted something exciting in the vein of some of the adult books that I read, but starring characters that I could relate to better, who were my age. If you're ready to read an adult book, that's great. And some are, and some are not. And I feel like there's a population of teens who kind of need something in the middle of that, where they can relate more to what they may be going through, or they can see something happening to somebody their age and maybe find a way to understand it in a way and not feel alone.
When you published your first book, because this was your second novel, right?
Yes.
So when you published your first one, while you were in the process of writing and editing and publishing that whole process, were you afraid of how people might take your book? Were you, scared of throwing certain topics in there, or were you pretty confident going into this?
No matter what an author is going to write, there are going to be people who don't approve of it for one reason or another. Sometimes reviews do get personal. So I think some people, when they really dislike something, they feel strongly about it, so they'll use some stronger language. And I don't know, it may be unintentional. There are always going to be people for whom some topics are too much, and that could be anything from whether you're writing about something like abuse, and it could be just using harder language, or like writing about sexual relationships or sexuality. And I don't really think that an author can go into a book trying to make everybody happy. Find a story that you're willing to tell, and you have to tell it as true to life as you possibly can. And you can't be worried about whether it's going to get banned or whether it's going to be something that will appeal to everyone, because literally no book will appeal to everyone.
Yeah, that is so true. I went through a phase where I was continually making changes on my book based on feedback that I was getting. And every time I fixed something, it would cause an issue with someone else. And it's just impossible to create a book that everyone loves as much as we want to.
That's why I think it's important to find your group, like your critique partners, your CPs, the people who know you, they know what you're trying to do with that book. So you need to find your people. You can't just send it out to 20 different people and expect everybody to feel the same way about it. You really need to find somebody who understands what you're about and let them be the ones to help you along, but also be willing to call you out if you do go off the rails at some point in some way.
And I think the cool thing about writing multiple books is you kind of create this filtration system in a way of the readers who actually really connect with your stories.
That's really the most important part, I think, because it's one thing, there are plenty of people who will write stories that everybody can relate to, and there are plenty of people who just will not. And everybody needs those books, though. Somebody will relate to what you're writing. And that has been, I think, the best thing about publishing for me, is that I have found readers who truly, truly have loved what I'm writing. And it makes the people who maybe feel iffy about it or just flat out don't like it, maybe it just wasn't for them, and you can't take it personally, because nothing is for everybody.
I think it's really cool that you were able to proudly have this kind of gritty style as part of your brand. that's something that I've personally been kind of scared of doing with my own work, because I have this mentality of like not wanting to scare people off or that sort of thing, when it shouldn't be a fear because those people aren't going to like the book anyway.
That's really what it comes down to, is not everybody's going to like it. So you have to write what you want to put out.
Yes. So I think it would be cool to end off by asking you what advice you have for writers out there who have these topics that they really want to write about, but are scared that, some people aren't going to like it.
A lot of times you have to write for a very long time in order to get to that point. It's not something a lot of beginning authors would be comfortable with. I've been writing for a very, very long time. And in the beginning, it is harder. It's much harder to take criticism, especially if it's something that means a lot to you and you put it out there and then people are basically telling you, haha, this thing that means everything to you is hot garbage.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever. Or I hated this. This was terrible. This is not what I wanted. That can be rough to hear, but it's part of being an author. It's part of publishing. So if it's something that you really feel that you're not ready to handle, then that may be time to take a step back and reevaluate what you can handle. And that's not to say quit writing, but that may be something you need to explore on your own, because it's not easy to hear that kind of criticism if you don't take criticism very well.
Awesome. And I think that's a great way to end off. Thank you so much for meeting with me today.
Thank you for having me. Sorry about the issue.
No worries.